witness to history. There's a saying that when you hear a witness, you become a witness. You become a messenger of the messengers. There are many lessons to be learned today from Anita Schorr that apply to us today, as we've been talking about the past couple of weeks. We'll have time for some questions at the end, but all you need to do now is listen. Let's give a warm welcome to Anita.
We will show you now a 4-minute video about Kristallnacht. In the translation, it means the night or the day of broken glass. And I think this is the time when everything started and where it could have been really stopped. We'll talk about it after you see the video.
Germany, 1938, the night when synagogues went up in flames. Kristallnacht. The German government, in its official records, published the number of 191 synagogues burned and 96 Jews who died on that night. Is this possible? In far-reaching research conducted by German-born Professor Mayer Schwartz, a very different picture emerges. About 1,550 synagogues were destroyed or burned, and some 2,500 Jews were murdered or committed suicide out of pure despair. Some 30,000 Jews were confined to concentration camps, and tens of thousands of apartments and shops were looted. Kristallnacht, pogrom night. The 9th of November, 1938, sounded the warning bell to German Jews of the tragedy approaching the whole of Europe, and was the beginning of the Holocaust of the Jewish nation. Ashkenaz Judaism flourished for hundreds of years with generations of Torah scholars, philosophers, scientists, and men of letters. With the rise of the Nazi regime in 1933, 500,000 Jews lived in Germany, less than 1% of the population. Their influence was felt in commerce, in economics, in the fields of culture, far outside of their absolute numbers. During this period, more than 2,000 synagogues existed in Germany and in Austria. These synagogues were among the most magnificent buildings in the vicinity and were the cultural centers for the community of each place, together with the local Jewish school. The 9th of November, 1938, Kristallnacht and their German and Austrian neighbors stood and watched how synagogues were torched, how whole communities were destroyed, and they were silent. They were witness to the atrocities, the torture, and the degradation of their Jewish neighbors, and they looked the other way. Their silence and their ignoring of what was taking place was the same as direct participation. Thus, by the silent support of the German population and by lack of any real reaction by the rest of the world, the way was laid for the Second World War and for the destruction of European Jewry. In the Institute Beit Ashkenaz, we are collecting, one by one, the pictures and reminiscences of these holy communities. Utilizing our extensive archives, we are in the process of publishing a series of memorial books, the first of which have already appeared and additional volumes are in preparation. In this way, Beit Ashkenaz hopes to preserve the legacy of Ashkenaz Jewry, including preservation and renovation of cemeteries and memorial sites in Germany and in Israel. Preservation of the memory of our ancestors is precious to us all. Help us to do this while there are still those among us who remember.
I used to stand in front of students like you, and I used to say, well, I was a kid just like you. They gave me a reflection. So here you have a look at it. This is Anita, 1 year old. A stroll in the park. My uncle Ludwig, my mom Stella, my little brother Mike, and my grandfather Maurice. Here I'm about 3 years old. Here I'm putting my little brother on a sled. My grandmother Gisela and my grandpa Maurice. Here I'm about 5. I was never really that shy. This photo was taken by a famous European photographer, Francis Grubner, my brother Mike. This is a very last picture of me. I am here about short of 11 years old. Behind me my father Fritz, my mom Stella, and my little brother skiing. Skiing in Europe at those times, it wasn't going down. The hard part was climbing up. This photo was on the piano in our dining room. Skiing in the Alps, here I'm about 7, my father, my mom, and a friend. My mom. Everybody smiles after a good day of skiing. Here I climbed a very, very tall mountain. My father was very proud of me, and I was good. I was happy. My father and my mom were, my father especially, were avid tennis players. I play tennis, my son plays tennis, my grandchildren play tennis. This is a wedding picture of my parents. 1925. Exercise class. And the second one standing on the left. Maccabi. This is when Hitler marched into Czechoslovakia. And I put a map of Czechoslovakia, or actually of whole Europe, behind me so you can see where I was and where I went. You will have a better. As you saw, Kristallnacht. the police, the fire department, and everybody who was in uniform got orders not to get involved and not to help unless they wanted to join the Nazi attack. So you can imagine people were taking out of their life at gunpoint. I don't know if you can imagine it, but just let's say that before you went to school, they came there with a gun, they took your father, your mother, and you, and they gathered you in some kind of a plaza, and then they deported you out of your life, innocently. People that were neighbors of those German soldiers, some of them. And I think personally that if somebody would have said no at that time, the Holocaust would have never happened. But no, the free world stayed silent. And this is one of the reasons that I'm here today. This is something that I would like you to understand. And that we all we have to address ourselves to it. Because if you don't step in, the moment something is happening, now they call it bullying. But bullying was always there, and I'm glad that the world is addressing themselves to it. If you stay silent, you are participating. And think about it. And this is really why I am here to show you that if you don't do it, that atrocity like the Holocaust can happen. Kristallnacht was November 9th. They went through Austria, and they call it Austria adjacent to the German Reich. But they said now after the war, the Austrians said that they were the victims, but they were so happy to join the Reich that it went very quickly. And there are many famous pictures of Hitler standing on the balcony of Schönbrunn, the beautiful castle in Vienna, and he was saying, now remember, if you are not with me, you are against me. It's not just words. Those are very serious words. This is a step to take away from you the freedom. If they tell you that if you have a different opinion, you are against them. Immediately, it sounded like nothing, but it was everything. In March, here it was December, it was in Germany and Austria. I don't know if you can, I was born in the city of Brno, B-R-N-O, and if you can see there was Vienna. Vienna is the capital of Austria. It was 1 hour only by car. So before you turn around, the Nazi occupation army entered Czechoslovakia. Czechoslovakia actually in 1938 mobilized, but the current president at that time sold them out. He just capitulated and let the Nazis get into Czechoslovakia and take over. My life changed. I was short of 9 years old. I was a kid. I was a little kid like maybe your brother or your sister, and suddenly all the rules were changed. The beautiful time of freedom was taken. You have to be home by 8 because Jewish people couldn't be on the street after 8. You cannot go to play in the park. You cannot go to the movie houses. And every day or every few hours, more and more restrictions were given on the Jewish people. You cannot drive, in the trams, we had trams in the cities, the Jewish people could not sit inside, they had to stand outside. And then we had to wear a Jewish star. A Jewish star, yellow, with a black outline, and in it, Jude, Jew. I want you to think for a moment. I want you to think for a moment that what it would mean if something would be written on your chest. There's like pointing at somebody. They're telling them you are white, or you are black, or you are green, or you are this, or you are that. And a way of discrimination, a way of taking away your humanity, your freedom. Not much time passed, and Jewish kids couldn't go to school, and it was forbidden for the teachers to hold little groups in houses. Nobody dared to do anything against the rules because we were invited to such a point that if you didn't do anything, they deported you immediately. Before you turned around, you were taken out of your life, and you were on a transport going to the east where nobody was coming back from there. Then the rumors came. The rumors came that in Poland they put people on trucks. I mean Jewish people. They put them on trucks and drove them into forests. And they made them step out of the trucks and dig a gigantic hole, and then stand in front of the hole that they dug. And they were shot. Innocent people. Men, women, elderly, children, shot. Do you think that nobody heard about it? There must have been a few miles away, there must have been a village of some sort next to this. And they are hearing shots. They hear shooting there. They must have wondered, what is it? But no, they turned their backs. They stayed silent. Silence is deadly. If you don't address yourself to discrimination or to whatever you want to call it immediately, if you wait for the other guy to do it, it's not happening. It's not happening. And I would like you to think in a direction that you should think about it very deeply. I think you need to make a commitment to yourself here today. A commitment that you will not be a bystander. A commitment that you will be one of the soldiers watching over our fragile democracy. And transports were going out of Czechoslovakia. People were told, pack an overnight bag. Now can you imagine to put your whole life into one bag? The grown-ups put their medications, their favorite clothes, their jewelry, their whatever, because everything had to be left behind. You took a bag and you left your beautiful apartment or a house. You just had to leave it behind. Summer clothes, winter clothes, so they can have something. They went into a plaza, and then they put them into cattle cars and drove them out east. The first time we got an announcement in 1940, the end of the year of 1940, and my mother knew something who was a very close friend who now collaborated with the Germans, and she took all her jewelry and money, and her sister Hilde lived also in Brno, and of course her husband Heinz, and she took from them all the jewelry and all the and a lot of money, and she gave it to this particular person who was her very close friend before all this happened. And she was able somehow to buy us out. We didn't go in 1940. Same rules, everything, everybody was anxious. Nobody knew, did they go? Our neighbors from here, our neighbors from there. You saw people saying goodbye to their neighbors. and they didn't know where anybody has such power to displace people without anybody saying anything. And I'm repeating it and repeating it because this is the key why Holocaust happened, because the free world stayed silent. And this is something that you have to deal with in the future in all kind of different things. If just somebody is bothering a friend of yours, they call it politics. Don't wait until the next guy does it. Step and do it. Step in. You will feel like a hero if you step in. And let me tell you, the bullies are not heroes. Bullies are weak people. You give them one push and they deflate. And if you think that you cannot do it on your own, then absolutely get your friends that you go to play ball with, take them to preserve equality, to preserve dignity, to help a person who is in trouble, to help a person who has been confronted without any good reason. You be heroes. And it's good to be a hero. It feels good to be a hero. And time went on, and there were messages. People sent telephone calls and letters and messages, and they were listening to the BBC, to the radio. So I remember we had a radio. Not everybody had a radio then, and the grown-ups were sitting listening to the news and listening to the BBC, which was an English station, trying to find out what is happening. Why isn't anybody stepping in and saying no? Nobody said no. Nobody said no. We are now in the spring of 1939. No, sorry, 41. 1941 springtime, we get an announcement. We have to pack our overnight bag. Here we are now in the plaza, and they count you. I don't know what they are counting. Everybody had a yellow star, and everybody was given a serial number or whatever. They love to mark you, because marking somebody is discrimination. Marking somebody. So we had the yellow star, and we had the tag that we belong to that particular transport. Then they took us to the cattle cars, shoved us in as many as they could, 50, 60. Not 2 minutes went by, and we were already gasping for air, because the cattle cars are not built for 50, 60 people. The cattle cars have a little window. It's enough for 4 cows or maybe 3 horses, and now you have 50, 60 people in there. Squash. Because the doors closed, and we went from Brno to Theresienstadt. And when the doors opened, one of the men said, "We are still in Czechoslovakia." And the other person said, "Well, I know what it was. Those were barracks for soldiers that were built in the 14th or 15th century. And they had a moat around them, and over the moat there were a few bridges, so it was very easily to cover. They chased us, herded us into a corridor. They made us put down the bags, and then they ordered us to make 3 steps. And that was the last time we saw everything we so carefully made. Everything was taken away, but we got utensils. Aluminum utensils, an aluminum bowl, an aluminum cup, and an aluminum spoon. And we were told, you better watch it, because if you lose it, you don't eat. Food. In the morning we got a square of bread and a little piece of margarine the size of a postal stamp, and some black coffee. Noontime, they brought in a contraption of a soup Nobody knew the names of the vegetables floating there, because those vegetables were not vegetables that people eat. Those were vegetables that they give to cattle. Once they knew what it was, you tasted it, cannot. The people that were from there before begged, could we please have it? Could we please have it? And we said, of course, who can eat it? We pushed it away, they ate it. They didn't eat it, they gabbled it up. We couldn't believe how somebody can eat such a horrible thing. And some people didn't eat for a day. And some didn't eat for 2 days. And there were some that didn't even eat for 3 days. But then that thing hunger set in. How do you explain hunger to somebody who had a good lunch a little while ago? Hunger is a totally consuming, it grabs you here, and then it enters you somewhere. And now you can't think about anything else, just food. You would give anything for food because your body is craving in a way that is trying to overcome you. You are freezing cold because food is heat. You can think because the oxygen is not given to the brain. So you can think because all you can think of is how to get another bit of food. And this was happening every day, every single day. For the 4 years I was in concentration. You never got enough to be full. You got just enough to be able to stand on your feet. You were hungry in the morning, then you were hungry after that little piece of bread, then you couldn't wait anymore for noontime, then you ate that horrible contraption of the soup, but even that wasn't enough what you got. So there was a cycle of that hunger moving through you all the time. You woke up hungry, you lived all day hungry, and then you went to sleep hungry. In the middle of the night, you woke up because you were so hungry. And in the morning you wake up after you somehow put yourself to sleep, being so hungry, still hungry. There was a lot of people in Terezin. Trains were coming in, but there were trains also that were going out. And those trains, that the people that were on those trains were never heard from again. The Nazi government saw that they have all these people there, 50, 60,000. Terezin was a tiny little village before, a little town, maybe 5,000 people. Now imagine there is 50, 60,000 people there, everybody infested with lice and bedbugs because there was minimal hygiene, and even if you could take a shower, we were in bunk beds, if you could call it bunk beds, it looked more like shelves. 6 on the bottom, 6 on top, in the middle, and 6 on top. Strangers. And these bugs didn't even only bite you, they also spread disease. And one thing we didn't want to do, to be sick and to go to the infirmary, because very few people came out of the infirmary. The occupation army saw that they have so many people there, they will do some medical experiments. They injected everybody with scarlet fever, that time a killer. Now you have it, the first group of inoculation that you get. There are no data how many died. There are no data how many were left with permanent repercussions. And there's no data how many just, it probably was the amount of the vaccine that they gave you, was it the vaccine that were not as strong, you survived, but those which were overdosed probably died. It is now the beginning of the winter of 1941. It is actually December 7th, 1941. United States enters the war, Pearl Harbor Day. Everybody rejoicing. We will be liberated tomorrow. And tomorrow went by and we were not liberated. And the next day and we were not liberated. And the next week and month and a year, we were not liberated. The free world forgot the people called Jew. We were told to pack up our very little things that we had, that we are going to be resettled, that we are going to go east. We are now in the summer of 1943. I'm short of 13 years old. I'm your age. Haven't been in school since 5th grade. Let me tell you, not only did I learn anything, I forgot. You forget if you don't go to school, and also you don't know what to do with yourself if you don't learn.
Good afternoon. Please forgive the interruption. Would Cole Foster please report to the office? Cole Foster, please come to the office. Thank you.
Can you see me from there now? We are now again in the cattle cars, infested with bed bugs, lice, with broken hearts, because some of them lost their loved ones, some of them just couldn't take the atrocities that were every day put on. Weakened by sickness because nobody wanted to go to the infirmary. Again, 440 or 50 people shoved into those cattle cars, weakened with hunger. We were traveling now from Theresienstadt, from Terezin, across to Auschwitz-Birkenau. A few days. It took a few days. And there were people falling down, dying on the spot because there was no food, there was no water, and in the corner there was a pail for 60 people to relieve themselves. Another chop at your dignity, another chop at your humanity, another way to take away what is called human. I think that was a time when humanity was forgotten. It didn't exist because such atrocities were happening. When we arrived and the doors opened, we again gasped for air. It was night, it was drizzling, and the dogs were barking, and the German SS soldiers were calling left and right, and they separated men from women. Babies were torn out of mothers' arms and thrown on a heap. Babies thrown on a heap. Brutality. And while all this was happening, the free world stayed silent. There was nobody who stood up and said no. We couldn't believe it. We were now in Auschwitz. We were in the biggest killing machine. He took us to a room. My mom was able to keep us because before that, they left the kids, the younger kids with their parents. Of course, my father was separated. They herded us into barracks, but before that, we went to a room where they sprayed us with DDT. It's a disinfection powder. Actually, it was because later it was poison, so later they didn't use it. But all these bugs fell down. We were free of the lice, free of the lice and the bed bugs. They were all on the ground. Oh, terrific. Next room, showers. And we already heard that in Auschwitz, the showers and the gas chambers look identical. There are rooms and there are like 4 or 5 rods, and on the rods are a bunch of shower heads. And the ones which were the shower rooms who got the trickling lukewarm water if ever it was warm. And the others were gas chambers, where gas came out and in a split of a second a human being was gone. Of course, the ones I was in was the shower. Next room, shaving. They shaved everybody from head to toe. Now let me tell you, you don't look the same as other guys. You look weird. The ears are sticking out, the nose is protruding, the eyes are so big. You couldn't believe that you looked like one of those creatures. Sitting, you must think, I said to myself, I must look the same. And indeed I did. Next room, Auschwitz uniforms. They threw on us, at us, the uniforms, the striped uniforms, and we had to separate them, take what you fit it into or what you didn't fit into. A striped cap, a striped jacket, and striped belts. The Jewish star for the Jews. A red triangle for the convicts. A pink triangle for the gays. A purple square for the gypsies. Another way of discrimination. Another way of taking away your last drop of being still human. You got one shot after another to lose your humanity. And they weakens you, they starve you, and they take away everything that holds you to be human. It was planned, scientifically planned. Next room, tattoo. We got a tattoo on our left forearm. 71,569. 71,569. Now they branded us. And they told us, you better memorize this number because they will call you by this number. And they will call you in German. Now for me, I'm from the border of Austria. My second language was German, so it wasn't difficult to remember it. But there were people from other countries, they didn't know German. Imagine to memorize 71,569. That's a terribly wrong thing to memorize. Another way of taking your dignity. They branded you now like an animal in a herd. And from then on, I was 71,569. It took us to the barracks, and if it's possible, the barracks were colder and tighter. Those shelves we slept in were lower. We were in a place where they called it Birkenau, which means birchwood. There was a bunch of barracks for men surrounded with high voltage electricity, and the same for women. And every morning at the crack of dawn, they took us out and they counted us, in pews of 5, counted. Where could you go? You couldn't run away. The barbed wire was deadly. You touched it, and in a matter of seconds, you were gone. A matter of black matter was stuck to the barbed wire. You were gone. So you just stood there and waited for you didn't know what. And if they wanted, the guards wanted to have a little, the Lagerälteste, the person who was the head of Birkenau, he was a criminal that killed his mother and his father. This was the person in charge. And when the guards wanted to have a little fun, they picked out the weakest of the group, and they told him, take these stones and bring them here. And when the poor person stumbled to put the last stone on the heap, they said, now take it from here and bring it there. This is one thing I still didn't resolve. I still didn't resolve how one human being can be so cruel to another human being. What does it do to a soul of a person that is so cruel? I was in Auschwitz 11 months. But there were transports that came in, trains full of people, and they didn't tattoo them, and they did not dress them. They just gassed them, and then their bodies were thrown into ovens, and then all you saw were mountains of black stench rising to the sky, and you knew that people came. You knew that people came that were destroyed, taken away, murdered. Nobody died there. Everybody was murdered. They were murdered by hunger or by despair or by force. But all were murdered. Because this wasn't normal, what was happening there. We couldn't understand how the Allies don't come and bomb this killing machine. We didn't even care when those which are here will die, but the next one will not die. But nobody said no. Nobody found the courage in the whole world to say no, that this cannot be done to human beings. And this is why I'm here. I need you to make a commitment to yourself. I need you to understand that if you don't stand up for injustice, the just injustice grows, it mushrooms. We cannot allow this, because you have to think of your children when you will be grown up, to leave them a better world than we are leaving you. I apologize for my generation. We did not leave you a better world. We were not able to fix this. And this is why I'm here. Maybe I can be a stone, a stepping stone to a better world. At least this would be my big wish. We are now, there is a sign that men between the ages of 18 and 50 who are fit sign up, and they will go to Germany on forced labor. They call it forced labor, but it was actually slavery. My father was 45 at that point, and I remember him waving to us from the other camp, and that was the last time I saw my dad. Then was a second, just a few days after that, the same sign was for women between the ages of 18 and 50. And my mother pushed me. She said, go tell them you are 18, you are strong, go. And she pushed me, and here I was suddenly already away from her, already at a sign where the other people are going. And I turned to her and I said,